Hello everyone, my name's George Lecakes and welcome to a one-day game crash course. Specifically, this is meant to target teachers who are in New Jersey who have attended the one-day gaming for STEM and other knowledge course at Rowan University. However, I figured not only would it be useful for those who attended to have this reference material for the future, but it might be nice for other individuals who could not attend to be able to access this information. So what I'm doing is summarizing a lot of that information and a lot of the PowerPoint information here before you for you to access and use as you wish. If you'd like to communicate with me, you can do so either through my YouTube account, which you obviously have stumbled upon, or you can email me at lecakes@rowan.edu. Either way, this is sort of an abridged version of a course I teach on virtual reality systems. The idea being that we're going to look at the most basic ways of utilizing things like game engines, 3D modeling software, texturing software, and so forth to be able to create examples of how you can create your own games. The intent here is the fact that most people, most individuals, enjoy games, regardless of whether it's a computer game or a board game or something else. So if we approach this topic from that, we can show individuals that things like chess games, whether it's Halo on Xbox or, Kerplunk or something else like that, we can utilize mathematics, science, art, and engineering to basically describe what's going on and to hopefully get them more interested in these subject matters. So moving on, who am I and why should you really care about what I have to say? Well, as I said already, I'm George Lecakes. You can email me at that aforementioned link, but I've actually been involved with VR, computer graphics, 3D modeling, and so forth since around early 2000. I came to Rowan University as an undergraduate in civil and environmental engineering, but from there I learned that my real passion was in gaming, and when working with friends to produce a game, I migrated over to electrical and computer engineering. And from there, I became a graduate student, a research assistant, a research associate, and since 2012, I've actually been the director of the Rowan VR Center, Virtual Reality Center, which I've helped to create. And by help to create, I mean in the sense that I've helped to create demonstrations and visuals and so forth, as well as funding sources and all aforementioned things. So the idea is that I'm heavily invested in this area, and I spent a lot of time trying to learn a lot about it. And I'm hoping that my knowledge will be useful to you in making a lot of students interested in science and mathematics, because unfortunately, before I really got involved in this stuff, I didn't pay attention to it. I drew comic books during math class, and later in life I realized how much I wish I had paid attention, because all that knowledge is something that I could have used later on. You've already stumbled upon this website, or I should say my YouTube site, but this is sort of the course format. So the idea is that you can find plenty of materials at my YouTube site at youtube.com/George Lecakes. Not only does it cover the entire course lectures we're covering today, it's going to have additional information that I might not have been able to fit in based upon user questions and so forth. And it also has a lot of additional resources and topics that not only you can use, but maybe your students if they decide that this is something they want to do in the future. So how do you learn on your own? And I'm going to kind of break the mold a little bit, and I'm going to tell you that you don't need to be you don't need to go to school for this kind of stuff. I am completely self-taught. My background in education has nothing to do with it. And but there are a lot of references out there that can help you out. For instance, Real-Time Rendering 3rd edition is a wonderful textbook that I usually teach with. You can download the first 6 chapters for free in the link I show here. There are many websites that teach you things about texturing, animation, rigging, programming, and so forth, such as Udacity, Udemy, 3D Buzz, and I mean, really, there's too many to talk about here. Eat 3D, Gnomon Institute, and so forth. It's really up to you to go out there, find it. If you just do a Google search, you'll find plenty of answers in the world on how to address your problems and how to learn more. There are also tons of free videos on YouTube. The Unity and Autodesk websites have tons of wonderful tutorials, and there's a lot more out there that I'm not even mentioning for you to learn and develop. I mean, obviously, every one of these programs has its own documentation, and typically that documentation, if you spend a little time going through the weeds of it, will tell you everything you need to know. There's something we need to deal with, and that is the age range of those watching this video. And I know that sounds awkward and weird. I am currently, 33 years old, and I'll be turning 34 soon. But this is kind of the old VR mindset when I was a child. And this is a quote from Edward Castronova from his book on synthetic worlds. And that is the bulky vision goggles that go over your head, the web of wires and straps for your arms and legs, the funny half chair, half bike apparatus that you wiggle around on, the 6-sided surround sound rooms at Disneyland that make you feel like you're standing in the Amazon jungle or on the moon. They all obstruct your movement. You notice that they're there, whether it's a giant headset, a huge clunky moving area, or a man in a leotard on a hamster wheel. This isn't really faking anything. But this is kind of my generation. This is what we grew up with in terms of VR. And the reality is things are changing. And I say my generation, but the reality is I was a heavy gamer early on, and I played StarCraft and all those wonderful Blizzard games. So in a sense, I'm kind of also in this cross period where immersion and navigation and interaction are key. A person can literally become so immersed that they don't care about how truly realistic something is. They can ignore the reality of something and just be completely vested within it. I mean, think about all the MMOs out there, all the games we play where we kind of ignore maybe the things that we should be doing in life. And in a sense, we're no longer caring about immersion. Immersion in itself is how much the player, the person, values in that virtual world. So if you think about it, a game like World of Warcraft doesn't look terribly realistic. But for a lot of people, that's more valuable than their normal life. They would much rather throw away their life to make sure they can pay that subscription fee than lose it. Now, what about your students? What about your kids growing up now? What are they dealing with? What is the new set of virtual reality technologies that are going to become commonplace for them or are released right now? Well, of course, we have Google Glass, the augmented reality system, and unfortunately that didn't go terribly well. But the great news about Google Glass is it did sort of educate the community on augmented reality and what could happen. So while a lot of people consider it a failure, I consider it more of an educational step for everyone in the world as to what will be happening and what you're going to need to get used to early on. And of course, we have the HT Vive, things like the Oculus Rift or no-name party brands, and then more recently, things like the Oculus Rift or ODG glasses or augmented/virtual reality or mixed reality systems that are basically combining both virtual and augmented reality into one area. And that's really going to be the big thing over the next 5 to 10 years is mixed reality, fusing both things into one cohesive system and making it so that the virtual and the real become one. If you want to know more about our center and what's going on, you can check out the Rowan VR Center. It's at www.rowan.edu. We had original ties in the electrical and computer engineering department, but we separated off because we were relatively successful. And now we're actually a cost center. I'm the current director there. We have a marketing and business person named Janine Papasso. She also handles field trips. We do lots of field trips all the time for classes. So if you want to contact her, it's papasso@rowan.edu. to see if your class can be scheduled for something. And we take on a lot of graduate positions and undergraduate work-study students, both as interns and paid students. But the reality is our core mission is to further the research, creation, and design of virtual reality environments across a multiple set of platforms. And the idea is that we don't design the hardware or the software. We utilize the existing commercially available components to create what our affiliates want. And that allows us to save money and cost, and that's incredibly important. And what students get out of this entire program is they get to learn these systems so that when they go off to work for other people, they can say, yes, I understand Unity or Unreal, or I can do 3D modeling and so forth and so on. That being said, the kind of things we have are, for a long time, we've had a 4-sided cave system. It's about 6 or 7 years old at this point. You can see it right here. We also use a lot of head-mounted devices, very popular ones. We've got the Oculus, Dev Kit 1, 2, and then I think at least 2 of the latest versions along with the touch sensors. But the idea is with a head-mounted device is that it's not terribly portable. You don't go anywhere with it, but you're usually tethered in some way, although there are designs that do not have that tethering. But you have a distorted field of view that fills your entire vision, and it has tracking, which allows you, if you rotate your head left or right, you can see in all different directions of what's going on. It's pretty impressive, and for those of you attending the workshop, you'll get to try out at least the Oculus or the Vive or both at the same time. Now, what do we do here at the VR Center? What am I bringing you in terms of knowledge and background? I've worked on a lot of different projects. I've worked on projects for federal as well as state entities and private entities, whether it's NASA for rocket engine test stands, or drones landing on aircraft carriers, or even if it's Michio Kaku coming by to film a segment on virtual reality and holodecks. I've done research into simulations and using virtual reality, dancers and dinosaurs and a million other things. We have a lot of field trips with students, and part of our goal is to educate people, get them interested in VR, but also show them that it's a lot of math, it's a lot of science, it's a lot of engineering, and a lot of art. It's literally STEAM, the essence of it, all in one place. And it doesn't matter if it's VR or augmented reality, we're all in one space working together to make this happen. And of course, medical visualization, architectural visualization, a lot of other things. And then once more architectural visualization and so forth. The idea is that we can use virtual reality or computer graphics to reduce the cost of things because you can see the virtual version of it before anything is actually built, make changes before they need to happen, and ultimately save the client and everyone else money. And it says future system, but this has actually been installed since 2014. This is our 10-sided cave system, which can hold up to 25 kids, or I'd say about 10 to 15 adults, and it allows us to be fully immersed in a large area, but ultimately collaborate together in one space. And we'll be taking a tour of this if you happen to be attending the actual live lecture. We are always about new research, and here's me, I don't know, about 4 months ago from the recording of this video, doing something stupid, which is tethering an actual Dell workstation onto my back so that we can try to do somewhat wireless Vive work from place to place. As you can see there, the only tether I have is a power source for the computer, but recently we purchased or were loaned a backpack, which we're now using to do tetherless virtual reality inside of a space. Now, that being said, the last thing we're going to do in this introductory video is actually talk about getting things up and running. You're going to need some programs to continue. First of all, you're going to need some sort of a 3D engine. In this series of videos, we're going to be working with the Unity engine, but you're free if you are so brave to work with Unreal, CryEngine, or whatever you happen to be dealing with personally. Just realize you're going to have to translate anything I say into that engine, which means you're going to have to do some research. You're also going to need some sort of modeling or animation software. For a lot of you, this is going to be Blender because it's free. I'm going to be working with Maya, Autodesk Maya. If you're a teacher or an instructor or a student, there are free versions you can get on their website. I recommend checking them out. You're also going to need art editing software. This can be GIMP Shop, Photoshop, or Inkspace, or a million other programs, or even just MS Paint. It's up to you. Just have something that allows you to draw pixels, draw on a surface, so that you can make textures that ultimately go on your models to make them look more interesting. And finally, the most important thing you're going to need is patience. This stuff doesn't come instantly. I've been doing this for a decade now, and I gotta tell you, I still have gaps in my understanding of what's happening. Give it some time, walk away from it, sleep on it, and then come back. Don't give up. It takes time, but you will get there. Believe me, I've done it, and so can you. Now, that being said, we're going to end with this introductory video, and we're going to move on to some very simple basics. We're going to talk about the fundamentals of 3D to 2D and how that all works. Thank you all. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like. If you didn't enjoy it, give me a dislike and a comment below indicating why. And if you want more content like this in the future, remember to subscribe. I appreciate all of your views and your time here. See you next time. Have a good night. Bye.